Hello and welcome to another free code session. My name is Jason Bach and I overdid it. I was doing way too much in the last episode. I was making it overtly complicated for no good reason, and I think I was also tired. So I just spent some time just thinking about it, trying some things, and I got it cleaned up a lot, and it's much better right now. Well, better in terms of where it was before. So everything works. What I'm going to do now is change where I'm generating the code, but making this all like different generic types with callback and return value, I didn't need to do that. I just did not need to do that at all. I may not even need to do that for the adornments. I'm not sure. I think I do, but never mind. This got cleaner. There's only one verify method. The handler only has, well, I put it back to where it's doing the inheritance hierarchy it had before. Handlers just takes a handler. That's all it needed. And I now have this internal seal class handler node. So the concept of the next and that type of thing is no longer on a handler, which actually I like better because a handler doesn't need to know it's part of a linked list. It shouldn't need to know that. That's done with the handler node. The numerator is still there. You know, I just basically moved things around. And then the code that was failing, I tweaked here in a code dump, and now it all builds just fine. So again, I'm going to have to go through and change the code that I'm generating and move my phone over there so it doesn't buzz while I'm recording. But everything else should work. At least it should compile. Does it actually correct is a different thing. I also did some performance analysis just to make sure what the characteristics would be with this little extra handler node class instance. And I also threw in, not my notes for my videos, I added a linked list just to see what that would be like compared to everything else. Long story short is that a linked list is not too bad. It's better than using a list by default. It has about the same amount of allocation, just one, but as you start going up, I think it actually ends up being the one that allocates the most. Again, we're not talking megabytes. It's very small, but it is not, it's the worst in terms of memory. Its performance is not the great. It's like average, I think, if I was looking at the numbers. Again, the handler's way, the forward-only linked list way, seems to be the best for everything. The memory did go up slightly. It's still better with one. It gets just a tiny bit worse, tiny bit worse with two. If you go up to like 10, where you compare this to this, it's like 30 bytes. I can live with that. I can more than live with that in terms of justifying that in my head, because it's also faster. It's compared ratio of 0.91, so it's better. In terms of enumerating it, there's really no difference. It's about the same. Again, we're just talking 1 or 2 nanoseconds. That's nothing in terms of what we're looking for. And again, with what we're trying to achieve, we again expect 1 or 2 expectations per member at most. So I think we're good. I do want to come back here though to my notes, because I want to make sure that I'm creating, updating, and all this other stuff. I don't need to do this anymore. That's not a thing. The count is still the same, but that didn't change. That should be fine. This should be fine, I think. Yeah, because that should be okay. It was this stuff at the top. So if we come back to my code and we go up here to rocks and we say which one, it was we're going to need the verify builder, definitely, but then we're going to need the handler list builder. Now, there's also in the generated code, I know this is who cares, but I really want the pragma to be just around that. And I'm putting an extra line at the end because I'm just trying to be generalistic, and I don't need to do that. But, I want my code to be clean when I generate it. So I'm not going to be concerned about that right now. When I make sure that everything works, then I'll try to tidy that up a little bit. But in any event, okay, so when we're doing the list builders, so we're building the handler here, all we need to do is this. We need to just say, not that, this, of that type. That's it. So we don't even need to be Well, we do need to be smart in terms of the, how do I want to say this? If you have, because again, if you have type arguments, you have to do the cast later. So we still need to do that and put in just handler here. But this base type is handler base type. And I don't think we need that. Well, no, we do. Do we? No, we just need the name here. Ah. So what we need to get is actually now the fully qualified name dot. And do we keep this in here? No, we don't. No, we don't, because we don't really need it. But we do we do pass it in here. Okay, so we are going to be passing it back in because we do need it. And that goes down to here. Method handler types, string, that, which we want to go in there. And then we're also going to want, thank you. Thank you. And then the handler should take that. And it's not, but it is now. Well, we need to see what type it is. So let's go back. Let's go back. It's like, I'm telling you to go back. Go back. Thank you. And then that should be it. Okay, so now we're passing everything around correctly. So what we need is that expectations fully qualified name to be here. And then we just need it to be dot handler of method identifier. We don't need this. Yes, that should be correct. No, that's not correct. What is correct is putting this around it. That's what we need. Because we need to say what the specific handler type is. Now, I'm not doing that here, but that's what I want. Is I want mock test, global mock tests, iTarget, create expectations, and then the dot handler. That should be correct. Okay, so now we've got that in place. The verify, I think, doesn't change because we're just saying that we took away the overloads for verify, so that's no longer an issue. I don't think there was anything else. These are not null now, so that's good. I think we're good. So now where was this when I was generating it? I wanted to find string retrieve. So that should be somewhere within our test. I just don't remember which type I pulled it off of. So if I come into here and I say, just find that, I don't care where, it's got to be somewhere. Interface generator tests. Thank you. Okay, so now this we're going to have to run and get the new code and then see if it actually builds. So let's do that. Okay, it passed. That's good. And I will now go and run all the integration tests and the code generation tests. So shut down, start up again, do all that. Hopefully that works. We'll see. That might uncover some other things. But one other thing I forgot is, and this is something I put into, where did I do this? I put it into one of the performance tests that I was writing when I was coming up with, the new hotness. So I think what I want to do is, I don't know if this is actually the same thing. I think you want to actually put handlers in there. I think I realized that down here. Yeah, so we want to say that else handlers add. So just a little bit more concise. So I'm going to make that addition real quick, update all the tests, and when I come back, I'll tell you what state we're in. Okay, I got a couple failures on the integration tests, and it's my own fault. It's because I'm looking at the method member identifier, but what I need to do is pass in this, not the thing on the method, because the property will tell you when it's building it what the correct member identifier is. And so what's happening is, you can see here, this is the getter for an indexer, and it's off by 1, but that's okay because this one actually generates the setter one. You can see the value here, but then we're off by 1 and we make a 5. So off by 1 problems. So what we need to do here is put in that, and then I also believe this as well. Those are wrong. Yeah, because there is no handler of 5. Well, that's what I'm naming it, but that's wrong. There we go. And again, this is just setting in my head that I have to do something with a property to say, what is the getter, what is the setter, and what is the init, and then those have their own member identifiers. I think that's going to make things so much easier to handle throughout the code. In fact, before I forget, I'm just putting this in as a title, and I will remember to come back here and fill this out later after I'm done recording, but I didn't want to forget this. So I'm going to put this in, not property model. And so I'm thinking what property model will have is 3 properties in and of itself, one for get, set, and init that can be null. And you have to have at least one of them set, and those will have the not shared information, like what is its member identifier. And it won't be set if it's not accessible, because then it won't generate code for it. So, again, I think there's some exceptions here. I think maybe, I'm not sure. But I think this will help in a lot of cases where I'm handling properties and indexers, because I'm always at figuring out what is the next thing to calculate. And so what I can say is, if get is not null, do the get. If set is not null, do the set. If init's not null, do the init. And it will have its own member identifier. That's, I think, the right way to do this, because it will make problems like this go away. But that's a separate thing I want to handle, and so I don't want to get into that right now. So I think now what will happen is we will have the right handler number, because we're building the right handler type here. And now this will be 4 and that will be 4. So I think we're good. So again, see how far I get with shutting down, starting up again, running all the integration and code generation tests. Somebody should go back and go through all my videos and find out how many times I've said that you should write tests, write tests, write tests. I forgot about this. I forgot about the case where you will have things like there is only one expectation you could possibly set. For no parameters here, there are no parameters. And so I don't do a for each. I just assume that there's an indexer there because the list has always had an indexer. Well, guess what? That's not the case. In fact, we can have an index here. So what I'm going to have to do here is have something. This only happens in one case. Now, of course, this happens, I got like a bunch of errors, but it's always the same thing. It's the case where I only needed to do the 0th element. So what I think I'll do here is have a method called first on the handlers. In fact, let's just do that right now, because I don't need the last. I don't need the middle. I don't need anything like that. I only just need the first. Okay. And I already have a first property, but what I want is the actual the first handler. I already have this thing called first. I don't want to expose a handler node. I just want the handler. So I think what I'm going to want to do is struggle with naming right now. What is the right name for this? I have an add. I could say get first, but then it's like, well, you already have a first here. But let's just see what it barks at if I do that. If I say public handler, no, T handler, get first. And what we do is we say this dot first dot value. Now, this is going to say we don't have XML comments. Okay, that's fine. So let's just smash some in there. And now that's okay. So now what we need to do is say anywhere where we are doing this is probably what we want to change. So let's look for that in this project. Find all of those. There's probably going to be like 5 or 6. Oh, it's pretty good. 5, I guessed right. Well, close. This rock attribute generator is not what we care about. That's not what we're looking for. This one is not what we're looking for either. It's only on the property and method because indexers have to have parameters. So this one, what we want to say is, instead of that, we want to say get first. That's what we have here. Good. And then let's copy that because we want to find the other two. This one, which we will change to that, and then the other one, which we will change to get first. Not the greatest name. I might change that when all is said and done. Do I want to save all this? Yes, we do. Shut down and start up again. Let's see if this actually finally builds. Okay, all the integration tests pass. All of the code generation tests pass. I'm going to have to go back into the test itself, update all the diffs because that's going to be fun work, but that's boring and you don't need to see that. I'm still on the fence with that get first method and just the name. It bothers me. I don't know what else to call it though. Like it's getting the first, so I don't know what else to say. It's doing what it says it should be doing. I know there's a property first, but again, I don't want to expose a handler's node just to get the first. That doesn't sit well with me. So I might just keep it get first handler, you know, and be done with it. Just as long as I document it. So, but this is good. I think we've got now a little bit of a cleaner implementation. Maybe calling it cleaner is stretching it a little bit. It's building a type that fits the scenario for where it needs to work. We don't need a list. We just need to keep something that is optimized for 1 or 2 things, maybe 3. And this, I think, does that. I've actually had the thought of maybe the handler has something in it that, or the handlers has something in it that says you keep track of the first 2, like with explicit fields. And then after that, you start using a list. You know, I may just try that out and see what that's like. From a performance perspective, it would be hidden from the user because the for each would just say, you know, if the first reference is not null, return that. If the second reference then is not null, we need to move next, return that. If the nodes after that, you know, you just do the while or you do the look at the next and see if they're not null. And would that actually be more performant? Would that be better memory? I really don't know. I don't know if that actually would be better or not. It would be somewhat optimized in the sense, that's at least what I'm thinking, is it might be somewhat optimized in that I know I'm only going to have 1 or 2 at the most. And then if I really need more, I could do that. I mean, but again, this is this whole thing of what is it that my code needs to do? And using a list works. It works fine, but I could put something in that's slightly better. Now, I've already said this many times in the past couple of episodes. This was probably not the place to put the emphasis on in terms of performance, because this isn't a hotspot per se. This was me just more acknowledging that and having some fun, seeing how far I could go with this and making this custom type as good as I could make it. And like I just mentioned, I might have something that could possibly do that even better. I'm not sure. We'll see. But even if I do that, that would be an internal implementation to the handlers. It would not be something that you'd see outside from an API. So I could still go through and change all the tests and that will be fine because it shouldn't change the code. Either way, in the next episode, I'm going to move on to something else because I'm going to do what it takes to finally close this one out and do something else. I think I have done more than enough work on this idea. Thank you all for watching. Leave comments and questions below. See you in the next episode.